Hi, I'm Rabbi Ariel Rackovsky. Welcome to day 3 of Teshuvah Tidbits. We've been discussing Rabbeinu Yonah's basic principles of Teshuvah. And we talked about some background concerning routine being the enemy of repentance unless a positive routine is in place. And we also discussed Rabbeinu Yonah's assertion that a righteous person, the difference between someone who is righteous and someone who is not, is the willingness to keep trying to be our best even when we are confronted with the occasional or even perhaps the habitual falling short of our goals. Rabbeinu Yonah's first principle of repentance, of Teshuvah, is what's called charata, or remorse. And that means feeling badly about what we have done. Now, in the realm of sin, it's really difficult to, especially if we are not necessarily in tune and our actions are rote, in the realm of sin, it's really hard to feel remorse, especially if it felt good to commit that sin, especially if there is a benefit to us to commit that particular sin. And so Rabbeinu Yonah puts remorse in utilitarian terms. It's hard for us to think and to relate to the notion that sin compromises our relationship with God. That's a concept that can be hard to relate to, and we have to work on ourselves to arrive at the point when that alone is reason enough to deter us from sinning. But Rabbeinu Yonah puts it in different terms, and that is not so much what sin does in terms of our relationship to God, but rather what it does in terms of our relationship to ourselves, that we compromise ourselves spiritually. I once saw an explanation of this that is put in terms that we can all understand. In the effort to eat healthy, we adopt diets, we go on strict regimens where we avoid certain foods, but sometimes diets let you go a little bit in set times, but there are times when we fall, when we just let ourselves go. We get carried away, we indulge ourselves. For whatever reason, we just don't stick to that regimen. We eat food that we shouldn't. We don't exercise when we know we should. And we feel the repercussions. If you don't exercise, you feel slothful. You don't feel as energized as you would. When you eat food that is not good for you, sometimes you feel the effects immediately, and sometimes the effects are perhaps more long term. But we know that we've fallen short, and we know that we're going to suffer the consequences unless we get back there and we start again. And this is the same thing as in the same way that it is important to maintain a healthy physical regimen and a healthy diet in terms of what we eat. It's also true in terms of the way we behave spiritually and in terms of the way we relate to ourselves when we fall short. We know that when we fall short in terms of our physical goals, then we aren't going to feel as good about ourselves, but we need to move forward. And so too it is with sin, and so too it is with when we behave in ways that don't do ourselves credit, in which we fall short of our goals. We feel that we're supposed to feel that it compromises ourselves, that it means that we are not reaching the ultimate goal of where we should be, that we have compromised who we could be, perhaps temporarily, but we now need to work to bring ourselves to the next level. That's what charata, that's what remorse is about. In the same way as we feel remorse when we don't accomplish physical goals, so too the challenge is to be in tune with and to frame us falling short in terms of a compromise in our own self-interest. It's not in our interest. We're not going to feel good if we fall short in terms of our spiritual goals and spiritual ideals, or what they should be. And so this is an important first step, feeling charata, not just because it compromises the relationship with God. Of course that does. We need to understand that. But the way to understand that is that ultimately it compromises our relationship with ourselves and who we could be. That is Rabbeinu Yonah's first lesson, and it's an appropriate lesson for all of us because all of us have experienced this in different contexts in our own lives. and to apply this lesson of what it feels like to fall short to our spiritual lives. That is an essential ingredient in our spiritual relationship with ourselves and ultimately with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. See you next time.